within 2 minutes tops, set this up in a workflow to preserve the integrity of your ads manager data. I mean, it's been monumental.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the HighLevel Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Allie Bloyd. She is the founder and CEO of Allie Bloyd Media, an award-winning agency that works with both businesses and agencies around the world. Allie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I feel like you are blowing up. Like you're at like celebrity status now in the marketing world. I mean, you're on Forbes, you're on Social Media Examiner, you're on Digital Marketer. I've been seeing you everywhere.
Well, I really feel like, honestly, having great content goes a long way, but also building great relationships with people that are in the industry and really just doing great work. If you're putting yourself out there consistently, the opportunities kind of come to you, which is something that I feel like a lot of people struggle with because they think that it's so difficult sometimes to be featured or to get speaking gigs and to do some of these things. But in all honesty, it's been one of the easiest parts of my business. But I do think that it really goes back to putting yourself out there, doing video, especially so people know your name and they know your face and they can hear you educate on things like this, doing really great work, and also putting relationships first, following up with people, showing a genuine interest in what they're doing and how they're doing. And people tend to want to invite you on things. So it's a lot easier than most people would guess. I think everybody should give it a try if they're not already doing that.
Well, I would argue that you're also a natural, but you've been doing this for a long time, right? You've been in
Yes.
the agency world for probably like a decade now.
Yeah, so been in the marketing space for a decade. I started my agency 3 years ago. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
working as a marketing director for a business for 5 years. Before that, I was another marketing director. Prior to that, I worked as an editor for a publishing company. Before that, doing marketing, sales, design. So it's all been very interweaved, all local business focused, all marketing and sales focused. And honestly, this was a dream of mine to start my business about a decade ago, and I didn't do it. Not too disappointed about that. I feel like all that experience really set me on the right path. So I can't really feel like I did it too late, but something that I'm very glad I did because I would not have been happy working for somebody else much longer.
Mhm. And at what point did you start helping and servicing agencies as well as businesses directly?
Yeah, so probably a little over a year ago at this point. Like I mentioned, I've always put out a lot of content really since the very beginning. Even before my business was launched, I was still doing marketing. I was still doing all of these things. And I was just consistently putting things out there and doing videos and showing people these concepts that they needed to learn. And I always had a pretty solid audience of other marketers, but I didn't have anything for them. Local businesses, that's always who I've worked with. That's who I'm passionate about working with. And so I never really saw myself as the coach who helps coaches or the agency who helps agencies. That was not really something I was interested in necessarily. But some of these opportunities, such as speaking at Social Media Marketing World and doing things with Social Media Examiner and Digital Marketer, it just continued to grow my marketer and agency audience. And it was something where I was getting a lot of messages all the time from other people in the marketing space wanting help and wanting advice and ideas and all these things. And it started to really seem like I was a fool for not providing something to these people who were reaching out to me, trying to work with me. I just hadn't created anything for them yet. At the end of the day, what I do for my local business clients and students, it's virtually the same thing because they're mostly
Right.
people that are working with local businesses as well. However, I actually found it really exciting once I got started with that because I don't ever talk about the agency strategies that I use or the back end processes or the things that really are very specific to this business. I was never really able to talk about those things with the people I was working with. And so I ended up launching a kind of a branch of my coaching program specific to agencies. At this point, it's all merged into one-year mentorship for both groups. They just have specific resource folders that not everybody has access to and specific modules and things like that. But because we do 3 live calls every week for about 2 hours. So it's really personalized and it
Wow.
doesn't really matter what business you're in or what industry you're in because you can get the support that you need at whatever time that you need it. So it's been great. It's really kind of one of my favorite
Got a lot
parts
going
of the
on.
business. Yeah. The teaching and the education side, I've always been passionate about that. I never really thought that that was a viable option as a core part of my business for a while. And I finally realized that it was, and I've started to shift a lot more in that direction, mainly just because I can help a lot more people that way. Your time and your energy and your team's time and energy can only go so far, but having an option like this where people can go ahead and sign up to work with me, they can get really every resource I've ever created because I've kind of been in the habit since I was about 21 of saving and documenting everything I've ever done. So I still have things I was doing to launch a brand new magazine about 10 years ago. All of those things, I saved them. And I've always been in the habit of trying to create ways to replicate what I've done in the past really easily, knowing that, hey, I could need this again one day. And that's really come in handy because other people need those things right now, and people need them at different times too. So because of all of those resources, particularly, people can hop in and really, get started very quickly, but the calls are something I thoroughly enjoy. So it definitely takes some time, but it doesn't take any additional time the more that people join the program. My time is already committed to that. I do one-on-one strategies with everybody, so that's really the only thing that changes, but I don't want to get rid of that because I think it's very important for me to be able to better serve them and help them put together their strategy. So it is a lot of stuff, but I found a great way to systemize everything. HighLevel has made it even easier because, like we were talking about right before we hopped on, I have so many custom built snapshots for different industries and strategies and all of these things that we've used successfully. And being able to share those with a link, I mean, there's really never been anything else like that. I was always sharing individual funnels, and then here's the docs with all the campaigns in them, and here's the outline of all the automations, and it's really just expedited that process significantly. So always somebody looking for faster, easier, better ways to do things, and helps you save a lot of time and still make a lot more money. So it's been a great journey process.
It's been super exciting for us to see you on some of these bigger publications talking about HighLevel. And, the reason that you're on there is clearly because you guys are at the, on the cutting edge, at the forefront of what's going on. And so it's been really validating for us to see, like, here's somebody out there pushing things forward, and we're the tool that she's using and recommending, which has been fantastic. So I'd love to talk to you about a few higher level types of things that maybe a lot of agencies using HighLevel haven't maybe gotten to yet, or still, focused on sort of the basics, the low hanging fruit kind of stuff. But like,
absolutely,
you guys run a lot of paid ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me
That's
about
really the core of all of our marketing and what we help people with. Absolutely.
So tell me if you would agree with me, because when I talk to somebody that's not using HighLevel and I'm like, are you guys running paid ads? And they say yes. And I'm like, then you're just leaving money on the table by not using HighLevel behind it. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. This is kind of going back to what you said before. If there were no affiliate program, if there were no benefits at all, I would still be pushing this platform to anybody who would listen, because I used to do these same things, but it took me 8 different programs to do it. And teaching other people how to do it was incredibly difficult because they have to learn 8 different programs. They have to time things out the right way. And then some of the functionality just wasn't possible. We would, do what we could with what we had, but it was not the easiest process. And I try and think about if I had to teach my students today the way that I used to do it, not many people would be able to keep up because it wasn't that easy. It was easy for me, but I tend to just pick up technical programs pretty easily. So this has just made it something that I feel like more people can use than we're ever able to actually implement in the past, which means that they are going to find more success and they are going to grow their business. And that's my primary concern for really anybody I work with, or just the people that I want to educate on whatever platform we're doing that. So this program has been incredibly helpful, and there is really no excuse for anybody not utilizing this, especially if they're running paid ads. If you're not, it's still something I'd encourage you to get on, because you can set this foundation within your business so that at the time you do start to run paid ads, you're going to make that much more, as opposed to letting more of that ad spend kind of slip through the cracks. People also think that paid ads don't work sometimes if they don't get that financial return. And a lot of the time it's because of what they're not doing on the back end. They assume that getting a lead is getting a sale, and that's not even close to the
100%.
truth. And this system does a great job of full transparency, not only for agencies and clients together, which was probably the first thing that I came to love about HighLevel, was just the complete transparency that was able to be possible. But it's also incredibly eye-opening for the business owner who's running those ads, because they finally have a way to keep their finger on the pulse of every area of sales and customer service and communication that's taking place. And they're going to see some hard truths about things that maybe they just never paid attention to that they should have. Lack of training with certain staff members that are really
100%.
important. So I think these things are great with or without paid ads, but it's definitely far more important to use it if you're already running them, because you're actually in a potentially worse position if you run paid ads and you're not converting them, because then you're out money and you're not returning any money. Whereas if you're not spending money and you're doing everything organically, whatever you close, yeah, that's profit. You didn't have to pay anything to acquire that customer. So it's a lot more important that you get these things ready before you run paid ads, or right now, if you're watching this and you're not doing it yet, because you have a lot more to lose ultimately.
I love that. And I love this point. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I honestly feel like most business owners that are not set up to close leads internally go from one agency to the next feeling like they all stink, and they go one to the next to the next to the next. And then you come in and start doing things. And now all of a sudden there's this transparency of like, whoa, wait, before you tell me that these leads stink, let's take a look at what's going on here. And you can go in and literally be like, look, we called you here. We texted the lead this many times, and they replied asking these questions, and then they never got an answer. So like, what's going on? And you start to flesh out all these internal issues. Now, do you guys actually, I'm always curious how many agencies have developed a product around that? Do you do like business sales training when you come across these situations?
Yeah, so this is something that I have really tried to focus on from the beginning. So being in-house as a marketing director before I started my agency, just experience I am so grateful for looking back, because I was the communication point for the general managers and the salespeople. And I was the one running all the ads. So I knew what was taking place on the marketing side. And I was trying to get all of these salespeople to take advantage of what I was putting on the table for them. And I saw so quickly what a disconnect there was between marketing and sales. So I had sales experience prior to that position. Through the magazine. It was kind of random, but again, experience I'm incredibly grateful for, because those things really, really, really matter. And the big issue I see with a ton of marketers is they see their role as running ads and generating leads, and that's it. And they don't understand how all of these parts and pieces work together. And if there's a problem on the sales end, it does not matter how well you're doing, does not matter how many leads you're bringing in. They will not convert them. They will blame you, and you're going to lose that client, even if you did everything right. And so my approach from day one has been to really provide a system as opposed to, an ad management service. That was never really the goal. It was always more about the entire package of what somebody generally needs to be able to get those leads coming in, get people on the calendar, and get people actually closed. And then not even just that, being able to sell to them again and sell a different type of product or service to them. So increasing the customer lifetime value along the way. And it's something we talk about a lot in my mentorship program. That's one of the reasons I do like it so much, because it's not just about marketing. It's really about business as a whole, because marketing and sales go hand in hand, and you're going to have issues in both of those departments. And if you only have solutions for marketing, but not for sales, you're either going to have to spend a lot more money trying to find that solution, or maybe you won't find a solution that really exists, because sometimes sales consultants can be tens of thousands of dollars that a lot of businesses may not be able to afford. And kind of like I talked about before, I've really documented and saved everything I've ever done. So I have a lot of sales strategies, sales trainings that we do, but also sales resources, tracking resources for people that are in sales. So you can really marry the sales analytics and the marketing analytics in one place. So it becomes super easy to identify where your problem is at any given time. If you can just look at the spreadsheet and say, oh, this number is not where it should be consistently. That's my one point I need to fix. Let's get it fixed, see if things turn around. So it gives you a ton of empowerment, I think, because of that, knowing that you actually do have the power to control something on the sales side. It's if more agencies would start talking about this in the beginning of the relationship, I think it'd be most beneficial, because sometimes they don't want to take your advice. Let's be honest. It's hard to hear that you're doing things wrong from somebody else outside of your business a lot of the time, especially if that's not exactly what you hired them for. However, because of all the transparency and the call recording and the tools that HighLevel gives you, you can show them instead of telling them. They're going to be more likely to accept the information. However, if you've already really discussed it on the front end, once they do see that, they're going to be far more likely to take your advice instead of just being reactive and not ever talking about sales at all as something they need to be paying attention to. And then you get to the point where you realize the sales is the issue. And then it sounds like you're kind of making excuses. So
that's a good point.
I definitely think it's critical that more agencies get on board with that.
I think it's a huge opportunity, and you just illustrated that. But you talked about sales problems with a sales team. But most small businesses do not have a sales team. So think about how much worse set up they are for success when it's just a front desk person that, got hired to do front desk types of things and now is the person responsible for incoming leads. Like, that is a huge disconnect, and in my mind, a huge opportunity to either create more perceived value to your package or literally to build new products to sell to businesses around sales training. And I think, again, I love the fact that in HighLevel, you can take what is succeeding with one of your clients and sort of templatize it, turn it into saved messages that you load up for them, that it's like, hey, especially if you niche into an industry, hey, we know all the types of questions that are going to come into this person. So we've taken some steps and put some things in there to prepare them and arm them with answers. To me, there's just a ton of opportunity that a lot of agencies don't think about around the sales side of things. Because we get hung up on the marketing and what we're going to do as far as lead gen.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things that I think is really important is making sure that the sales process that the business has in place is actually the right one, because that has been a big thing that I've noticed over the years. And they don't realize it. They don't even understand that you can design your sales process in a way that puts people in the stages they need to be in at the right times, and in the right places to make them more likely to close. And I've always been of the opinion that I'm not going to force what I'm doing to fit into what somebody else is already doing. I'm going to create what I think is the best path forward for them, present it to them so that they understand it, and try and get them to adopt a new system potentially. And it may be different and it may have a learning curve, but everything does. However, if you really understand what the desired sales process needs to look like for different types of businesses, it's not very difficult to kind of architect this. It's the pipeline and understanding, should this be a direct sale? Should you get payment up front? Should this be an initial phone call? Should this be an initial in-person meeting? Should this offer be kind of a recurring package or a one-time thing? There's all these little things that go into it. They really don't take much on the technical side to set up. It's really just more about putting the thought into it before you get started, because if their sales process is already broken, which a lot of people it is, and you may not even really realize that you're sending good leads into a broken process. What do you think is going to happen? Even with the right tools, great tools only go so far, especially if these leads have to close in the real world, on a phone call, on a meeting, in a store, anything like that. So you have to be able to be more of a consultant than just a person on a keyboard, the hands of the operation. You've got to put the thought into it.
It's a great opportunity. And I want to reiterate 2 points that you brought up. One being the process is often broken, and you'll find, certain scenarios, it makes way more sense to put a qualifying step in there. In my past, I can recall a lot of going in with sitting down with a business, and it's like, you're just trying to sell every lead and you're getting frustrated because of the volume and you guys aren't set up for this and da 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 da. You need to qualify so that you're only talking to the people that make sense, right? And that could be a big change in the process. But I love what you said about once you do figure it out. And again, this is a benefit really if you're niching into a specific industry for your agency, you can go like laser focused, figure out what works, and then stick by it, right? So that you'll turn business away, but you'll do it confidently because you're going to say like, look, if you don't agree with the model that we work with, then it's going to be this relationship of a square peg in a round hole the whole time. And it'll be better for both of us if we don't go down that road. And I think that can help a lot of young agencies avoid years of bad client relationships where it's just like so emotionally draining because you're constantly fighting to convince them to stick with you. But in your heart, it's not going to work because they don't want to adopt what you know to be what works.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is a really strong point for HighLevel that you have the ability to actually show people again, instead of tell them. People
Right.
are more likely to believe something they see with their own eyes. And so if you can create a system and get it to work for someone really well and show them, look at the pipeline. I mean, straight up, that's all you really have to show to somebody. Look at the pipeline, look at the distribution of the stages, because that's another thing that I think is kind of overlooked a lot of times. If you've got too many people in a single stage in your pipeline, there's likely an issue at that stage of the process. There isn't a real reason that there should be a massively long stage. Everything else is somewhat evenly distributed because you're supposed to be moving people over to the right at a pretty consistent rate. So it could be that you need another step in the pipeline. You need another bucket to put people into that can have its own steps and automations and campaigns.
Yes.
And also help you analyze which step is broken. Maybe it's the appointment setter that is doing a poor job of getting people onto appointments. Maybe it's the salesperson not doing a great job of closing people on the first call and then just kind of moving people over and never pushing them to any other stage. So the visuals are incredibly powerful in identifying what the issues are, but they're also incredibly powerful in demonstrating what the successes and the results are. So if you can at least just get one person who's going to be willing to listen to you and take your advice and allow you to kind of spearhead the direction that they're going to take with this new initiative, which for most businesses, it is always a new initiative. It's not like they have all these magical things going on already. They don't have anything that works. That's why they're hiring you. It's the best time for them to make a change when they start off with you. But people are too scared to do something that maybe the client is hesitant about. I see it with a lot of the students in my program. They get in this habit of letting the client tell them how to do their job when, again, they hired you because they're not doing well with this. This is something they're struggling with. Why would you let someone who's struggling with something tell you how to fix it? You wouldn't. And so you really have to have the foundational knowledge, I think, to back up what you're saying, like the why behind what it is you're doing to help someone understand. But really, again, just showing them and standing firm. If you believe that this is the best path forward, you need to be able to die on that hill, so to speak, if you're going to tell somebody and take responsibility if something doesn't work, of course. But don't let their hesitancy or their, no, that's not a good idea, just push you out of really getting them on something that's going to be in their best interest. Because if you really keep in mind what's best for them in the long run, usually it's going to be the suggestions you're making or the direction that you want them to take. And even if they don't know it right now, your job is to help them grow their business. And so you don't want to do something that's going to go against that.
Yeah, that's great. So I don't want to keep you too long, but I did want to get to a point here because I know that you guys have really run with the Facebook conversions API triggers and workflow. And I feel like we were really excited to roll that out. The world was sort of panicking, the marketing world, about the iOS 14 update and all this kind of stuff. And so we rushed those features to get them out and into the hands of people that, knew the importance and the value of those. So tell me about what you guys are doing with them and what you're seeing as a result.
It has been Amazing. And I'm so glad that it came out when it did. In all honesty, I had spent a couple $1,000s, on a tracking program about a week before I had Sean on a live with my Facebook group. And he told us that that was coming out about the next week, I think it was. And I was so happy to hear it because I don't want to use a lot of other programs. I want to consolidate everything where I can. However, more than happy to pay whatever I have to overcome that challenge, because if your ads manager dashboard is not accurate, which if you're not using the conversions API through the workflows, if you're not using a third-party advanced tracking system, then your data is not accurate. Far from it, actually.
Right.
Especially after iOS 14. But even there were some issues before that. But
Totally. Ad blockers, all that kind of stuff has been messing up the data.
if you're basing your ad decisions off of that dashboard, as you really should want to, I mean, it's very hard to pull data from a lot of different places. Do it if you have to, because it is critical, but you want to be able to trust what you're seeing so that you can turn ads off that aren't performing, keep ads running, or scale ads up if they are. You want to know what the attribution is. That's the only thing that matters. You want to make sure that what you're spending is producing a lot more money than you're putting into it. And if that information is bad, you're making bad decisions that are probably hurting your business, or maybe just stifling the potential that you could have. And so this has been super, super easy to set up, very accurate. I've been cross-referencing the data just to really see, because we, even had some problems with the other third-party tracking tool that we were using not being 100% accurate. And I'm willing to take a small margin of error, but if you're spending good money on your ads, you should care about knowing exactly what's coming from those. And so just being able to set up the conversions API and events manager, it's not very difficult, something that most people probably haven't done before, but it's pretty easy. And then being able to, within 2 minutes tops, set this up in a workflow to preserve the integrity of your ads manager data. I mean, it's been monumental. And if you're not using this, if you are doing purchases, if you are doing any type of opt-in, like a form where you could use a lead event or a complete registration event or submit application, or the surveys or the calendar for scheduled events, those are the 4 that are available right now. I do know Sean said that the Shopify integrations and things like that were coming soon. Really excited to hear that, because our students and clients that do use that, it's been a lot more of a challenge than really manually pulling the data as often as possible to confirm the results. It has been just a weight off my shoulders to know that this came when it did. I didn't really have to struggle through much, if anything, after that change took place. But my reporting was still accurate, and I could just have confidence in whatever I was spending. So those things, if you're not using them, you got to get on them right now. Learn how to do it. It's not hard. I have a video on my YouTube channel. It's like 3 minutes. The process is very short and simple, but it will pay you back in spades. And the second thing that I've really, really, really loved is the reporting tab, the attribution data. It's so much more detailed now. You can see so many different things. And there is a slight learning curve, I think, just going in there and really understanding the data that you have access to. If you're not using things like UTM parameters, go ahead and start using those things so you can track more effectively.
Do you have a course on that? I feel like a lot of people could benefit from a course or tutelage on UTM parameters.
Yeah, so I don't, but I actually did the social media marketing talk show last week, and we were talking about some of these things. And I was like, man, I really need to do a reporting training, because these are things that I just have been doing for a really long time. And I do talk to my students about it, and we have resources and things like that, but I don't have a lot of really detailed trainings on what they do and why they're important and how to build them. They're really simple to build on your own. People don't realize that.
Fun too. I feel like once you start doing it, it's fun to see the data carry over, and you're like,
it is.
Wow,
data
awesome.
is fun. It's such a geeky thing to say, but I think that, knowledge is power. And anytime you know for certain where your money is coming from, you have no issue pouring as much into it as you possibly can, understanding exactly what the result is going to be. And that's a big problem with, I think, agencies not growing or businesses not growing. They're too hesitant to invest what they should be investing, because they don't know what's happening to the dollars that are going in it. They may know how many leads they're getting, but a business doesn't grow by getting leads. They grow by making sales. So you have to be able to tie the entire thing together and say, this sale, this is the path they went through. So that activity tab, oh my gosh, so helpful. Love it. But if you want to dive even deeper and really generate some custom data based on what you're looking for, the reporting tab and the additional features that have been added there have been just so helpful. So think anybody who's watching this, if you're not using both of those things, I would hop on it immediately.
You just brought us back. I feel like, and when you pointed out being able to see the cost of each thing can illustrate bigger business issues that you can then address, right? Because if, I've seen this scenario where it's like, hey, the cost per booking that we're generating is really great, but your cost per sale stinks. So what does that tell us? We need to look at what's going on when people are showing up for these appointments. What's being said, show us everything. Let us try to flesh that out, because you guys should be closing way more of these appointments that we're booking for you.
Yep.
And now you're helping with the business side of things, the sales side of things, which separates you from the next agency that just runs Facebook ads, right?
100%. You will become an integral part of their business and they will rely on you. And that's really what you want if you want to keep clients long term. You've got to be more to them than somebody setting up an ad on Facebook, because anybody can learn how to do that. It's not the technical that's the hard part. It's really the strategy and the understanding and the full circle comprehension of sales and marketing together, as well as the processes, because HighLevel allows you to work through the different processes. And even for people who don't have firsthand experience in a business to really see how this works, you can learn it by immersing yourself in this platform and learning from that data and using it to make decisions. So the more data you have, the better decisions you can make if you're willing to look at it and ask yourself, what is this what is it telling me? What can I learn from this? What can I improve about it? Or even just recording it, I think is a great step, because we have a paid ads tracker that we fill out every single day. We know where our ads are with about 8 different metrics on a daily basis. Same thing with the bookings and the applications and the calls that show up and the sales and the cash collected and the overall revenue produced. And so at any given time, we can look in at a specific month. Maybe we had our best month ever, which we did last month, which was awesome.
Nice.
And then look back on that and say, okay, what's changed from this month to last month? I can see my overall metrics. Was there a shift at a certain point in the month? How does that line up to things that we were doing or offers that we were promoting? Or maybe you have a really bad month and you're trying, which is even more critical. You're trying to understand what's going wrong so that you don't have another bad month, because there is always a solution in there. It's the question is, can you identify what the solution is and then make the change that it's telling you to make? But you can, you have to have the data available, and the reporting tools and all that stuff is great. But I would say that you need something that's a little bit easier at a glance. The spreadsheet works awesome for us. We pull those numbers. We could get them in other places. Obviously, that's where we're pulling them from. But having something that is void of distraction, that's going to be just the same each and every month, it's really easy to pull up, to share. And it also just calculates a lot of stuff for you in the spreadsheets with the formulas, which is nice, so that you have full confidence at any moment, whether it's a great month or a bad month, that you know why that's happening. And you can either keep doing what you're doing so you can keep growing, or you can fix the specific issue that needs to be fixed. Because a lot of times people, they look at things, they don't understand where the problem is. And so they'll fix something, they'll change their ads or they'll change their offers. And those may have been working awesome. And then, they're not fixing the problem that was caused. They're spending time and effort and money fixing things that were already fine. And so just really getting into that mindset of, data is my guide. The data will tell me what to do, but you have to have it. You have to collect it. You have to be really, really consistent about it. Otherwise, you're going to have a very minor glimpse. If you're just tracking a day here and a day there, you got to make it a daily practice. And I can promise you it's going to pay off, because you will run into things that you don't know what the problem is, but the data is going to tell you.
So aside from teaching people how to do this, do you guys also do it for people, for the agencies that don't want to learn and would
Yeah, no,
rather just
absolutely.
have
We
somebody
do.
fulfill it for them?
Yes, 100%. So we're a lot more particular about the complete done for you agency services that we offer. However, we've kind of made this hybrid model that I call it a setup package. Essentially, we build everything. So we do everything high level related. We first map out the custom strategy. Then we put together all the parts and pieces. Then we fully set up their ad account, make sure all of the tech stuff is completely done, good to go. We set up full scale testing campaigns within their ad account. We have usually between 3 and 5 campaigns, about 10 different ad sets, a lot of different ads in terms of copy and creative variations that we're testing. And then we're able to monitor those for a period of time, make sure that we turn off the losers, scale the winners, anything that's glitchy in the back end that we need to iron out, get those figured out. And then we can essentially pass the baton to the company or even the agency, because an agency doesn't really need an agency to run things like this or to build things like this.
Right.
But it gives them the ability to know, hey, it's been done right. It was done custom for us. It's working. We're not going to have to overhaul anything. We're either just going to have to, they can hop in the mentorship program after that, just on a month-to-month basis for any additional support that they want. And then again, if it makes sense, we can continue to run it for them, or we can also train one of their team members to be able to run it. Because the truth is that if you can do it right from the beginning, if you can get the strategy and the system and the ad testing and all the tech right, it doesn't take that much time to run ads on a monthly basis and to get what you need to get out of those. So it's kind of a great mix, because ultimately agency services are not the best fit for every local business. Sometimes they simply should be spending that additional money on their ads to get the most that they can in return. And this gives them the ability to kind of have that agency experience and that hands-on done for you build. Also the ability to make sure that somebody's monitoring it after it launches, because they also wouldn't really know what to do. But they get to save a lot of money every month because of that. And then decide, do I want somebody in-house to monitor this? Do I want to get additional mentorship and just be able to make those tweaks myself? Or do I want to find somebody else, maybe at a lower price point, to just monitor those for me, knowing that everything's set up, we don't need anything overhauled, everything's working well, but we just don't want to take any time in-house to do it.
Nice. And so people are interested in either learning or having it done for them. AllieBloydMedia.com is the URL that they should head to.
It sure is. Yeah, definitely check it out. I've got a lot of great videos, trainings, resources that you can grab for free there. So if you are interested in anything we've been talking about, definitely encourage you to hop over there.
Awesome. And you also have a podcast, right?
I do. It's called Marketing Inc. Big Ideas for Local Businesses. So that's just one episode per week. Definitely a lot of longer form content that I can't really share everywhere else. So would definitely check that out as well.
Awesome. Well, Allie, thank you so much for coming on to chat with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you in the next one.